Matt, please. Right. Very good afternoon, East Africa. It's an exciting Thursday afternoon. Hope you had yourselves an incredible start to the week. And as we wind up our week, this beautiful week, there's quite a lot of things happening across the region, and our brothers from the Law Society of Kenya having a very wonderful annual law conference happening in Diani. And we hope it's going well for you. If you're not down in Diani and you're joining us for this wonderful conversation, Karibu Sana. And if you're joining us from Uganda, from Tanzania, from Burundi, Rwanda, and beyond, would like to welcome you to this very wonderful session that we are having this afternoon. Now, this afternoon's conversation, friends, if you drive across borders, if you own a business that transports equipment across borders, then you've come to the right place, because today we are discussing the COMESA yellow card in practice, and we're trying to explore as practitioners, how do you litigate cross-border motor claims and collect from foreign insurers? And an interesting conversation really to have this afternoon, because with regional integration, there's quite a lot that is happening, quite a lot of movement that is taking place, and quite a timely conversation. And to take us through this wonderful session is the one and only Miss Lydia Ndirango. Please allow me read her illustrious bio. Ms. Ndirango is the Principal Legal Officer at the Insurance Regulatory Authority of Kenya, and serves as the Chairperson of the Insurance Law Committee of East Africa Law Society. She's an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, a certified professional mediator, and has over 13 years of experience spanning dispute resolution, finance regulation, policy formulation, compliance, risk management, and anti-money laundering (CFT). At IRA, Lydia leads the litigation slash ADR team and is currently at the forefront of public transport sector safety and insurance reforms. She also represents the authority in Legal and Policy Committee of Joint Financial Sector Regulators Forum, the JFSR, where she contributes to sector regulatory and legislative reforms. Lydia is an avid speaker and was privileged to speak at a panel during the ELS at 30 conference on innovation and compliance, and she frequently conducts training for lawyers, judiciary, and the general public on various topics, including alternative dispute resolution mechanisms under the Insurance Act and exhaustion of remedies, amongst others. Lydia, it's a profound honor to have you this afternoon, and we look forward to you steering this conversation till the hour of 4. We are all yours, and I'll hand it over to you now to introduce your session and take it on from here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Gabriel. It's always a pleasure to have you read my bio. Thank you so much. Today, I have the pleasure of moderating this session that we're going to have, and I'm going to go straight into introducing our keynote speaker. He's my senior in the insurance sector, and I am privileged to introduce him today to you. Our keynote speaker is Mr. Calvin Mutiavari. I hope I didn't massacre that. He is the CEO of the Council of the Bureau Secretariat. That's the COMESA Yellow Card Scheme. Calvin is a renowned and qualified insurance practitioner with over 30 years experience in industry practice. His career commenced in 1990, navigating the reinsurance industry landscape within the Zimre Holdings Financial Group, and rose to senior leadership positions. He was instrumental in the establishment of the group's formidable regional footprint in Botswana, Mozambique, Uganda, South Africa and Zimbabwe. At the center of Calvin's career development is strategic thinking, formulation, and implementation, together with corporate recovery skills and development. In 2008, he was seconded to the Emeritus of SA in the capacity of a managing director and recovered this subsidiary out of judiciary management and back into trade, before extending the same expertise towards the revival of Credshaw Insurance Limited, a newly acquired and specialist trading subsidiary of the same financial group. This was between 2019 and 2023. Calvin was appointed as the CEO of the Council of Bureau Secretariat beginning of August 2023 to oversee the establishment of an autonomous institution. The Council is a COMESA institution that is advancing trade facilitation and market integration agenda within the COMESA regional economic community. The institution's long-term goal is to make the COMESA Yellow Card Scheme a transport and transit facilitation instrument of choice within the current 13 scheme member countries, the tripartite region, that is SADC, EAC, and COMESA, and beyond. And this is to promote further trade facilitation across the African continent. Please help me welcome our keynote speaker, Mr. Calvin. Karibu sana.
Thank you very much, Lydia, for those kind words. For me, it's an honor to be with the Law Society of East Africa. And I think with your permission, I would move on to deliver the keynote address. Not knowing how much time I've got, Lydia, I think you need to guide me.
Yes, I will alert you.
Okay, how much time do you give me to go through this keynote address?
Under 15 minutes now that we're running late.
Okay, I will try
But
my
we
level.
stand guided by okay, great.
Okay, thank you very much. So let me say, distinguished representatives of the East Africa Law Society, learned colleagues of the League of Fraternity, representatives of the insurance regulators and national bureaus, insurance practitioners and invited stakeholders, ladies and gentlemen, good day to you. It is indeed a privilege and great honor to join you today as a lead speaker at this important webinar convened by the esteemed East Africa Law Society under the theme The COMESA Yellow Card in Practice, Litigating Cross-Border Motor Claims and Collecting from Foreign Insurers. Please kindly allow me at the outset to sincerely thank the East Africa Law Society for organizing this timely and practical engagement. The subject matter before us today sits at the intersection of law, insurance, regional integration, trade facilitation, and access to justice. The theme speaks to the COMESA Yellow Card in practice, and in my view, this calls for a grounded understanding by the invited delegates of the evolution, the structuring, and implementation of the COMESA Yellow Card scheme. It is therefore appropriate that legal practitioners, insurers, regulators, claims specialists, and other stakeholders reflect on how cross-border third-party motor insurance claims are handled in practice. Additionally, the engagement seeks to establish the future of the COMESA Yellow Card scheme, to test its viability, to review operational challenges thereof, together with the sustainability towards serving the public more effectively. Ladies and gentlemen, as I set the tone of this engagement, once again, kindly allow me to share with you a few insights of the COMESA Yellow Card scheme in line with the terms of reference that were shared by the programs officer, Mr. Gabriel Akase. I'll just run down, the expectations by the Law Society through the program officer for me to reflect, one, on the evolution and the instruments that are guiding the scheme, to also highlight the benefits of the scheme, to review the operation structure of the scheme, to also put into perspective a role play of the various stakeholders and reflect on risk allocation, to reflect on claims handling structure, and then to look at regional integration and contribution as far as the scheme is concerned, to highlight some of the operational challenges that the scheme is going through, and last but not least, to reflect on emerging opportunities in the future of the scheme. So with your permission, I will proceed to share the slides that I've got. I hope we are seeing the slides. Confirm, Lydia?
Not yet, Mr. Calvin.
Okay, just hold on. Share. This one. Exit.
As
Okay. Where's
Mr. Calvin sets up, perhaps as we move forward, for the participants who have just joined, you could kindly share your questions as we go along on the chat, and we'll be able to address them at the end of the session. I would also like to just mention as a background that this topic was inspired by a discussion we had in the Insurance Law Committee. We realized most of us practitioners in the region do not have much information actually about the COMESA yellow card, and it actually inspired the need for this webinar. So I believe all of us here will be able to learn quite a lot, especially having our CEO here to give us our keynote address. So we're looking forward to it, Mr. Calvin. We can now see your presentation. I hope everyone else can be able to see it. Mr. Shafir, can you confirm on your end?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay,
Okay,
great.
thank you, Lydia, and apologies for that technical hitch. So I'll just go through a reflection of the evolution of the yellow card scheme. The idea of the yellow card, started off in 1985, and that was specifically in July in Burundi, Bujumbura, Burundi, when the Council of Ministers of the then PTA Regional Economic Community, which then I think changed to in 1994 to COMESA, conceived the idea that there was a need to come up with a regional third-party liability motor insurance, to take care of the interstate traffic, which would be transiting, the regional economic bloc then. And the idea was to have that insurance take care of any eventualities, liabilities, accidents that would arise because of, foreign vehicles transiting, the PTA region then. In 1986, specifically on the 3rd of December, then the founding protocol of the COMESA yellow card was then brought into being, and it was signed in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. And this is the founding legal instrument, the protocol. Out of the protocol were born other subordinate instruments to support the operationalization of the protocol. So we have got what we call the Inter-Bureau Agreement. I think for the benefit of members, the 13 member countries who are signatories currently, of the scheme, we have got 11 that are active. We still have got Sudan, which is not active, and Eritrea, also Somalia. Those ones are yet to come on board. So the Inter-Bureau Agreement is the agreement that then binds, the member countries that are part of the scheme, to the scheme in terms of how it's being implemented. So with that Bureau Agreement, which was signed in Zambia, Lusaka, on the 26th of April, 1987. We also have got what we call an operations manual. So the operations manual is just dissecting, the activities of the scheme, and that operations manual is also read in conjunction with the protocol and the inter-bureau agreement. So for all intents and purposes, we are saying the scheme, in terms of interpretation, it cuts across, the three instruments: the protocol, the inter-bureau agreement, and then the operations manual. The scheme is reinsured. It has got an insurance backup, a mechanism. So for the risk that the scheme is assuming, through the member countries, we have got a reinsurance pool, which came into effect in 1995. And like I said, this is to manage risk in case we have got an unusual outcome in terms of claims. So instead of member countries just assuming the exposure, we then thought, or the council then thought of putting in place a pool. The pool is currently managed by an entity within COMESA, which is PTRE or ZEPRI. They are the pool managers, and they've been running this pool, I think I would say, effectively well. Moving on, I just want to outline the benefits of the scheme. So the scheme, in essence, covers, like I said, out of accidents or incidents, we've got bodily injury, which could be death or disablement in whatever form. We also have got cover for property damage, and this is subject to specified limits, and also it varies from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. We also have got medical expenses, which is an optional cover. A client has to be specific in terms of requiring this kind of cover, and it's meant to cover, the driver and passengers, authorized passengers that could be on board. So the operation structure of the scheme, I'll just outline. Initially, we've got the member country. And out of the member country, we should have a national bureau. So the national bureau, it's designated by the government of the member country. So for all the 11 countries that are active members, we have got national bureaus that are in place. And the national bureaus are designated in line with the laws that are obtaining in the individual member countries. We then have got another structure, the primary insurance company. And the primary insurance company is the outfit that is responsible for issuing the certificates, the local certificates within the member country. And for a primary insurance company to be part of a national bureau, they should be licensed by the local insurance authority within the country. So at no point should we have an insurance company who is a member of national bureau, and yet they are not licensed to operate as a motor insurance underwriter within a country. So all national bureaus, their membership comes from primary insurance companies that are authorized to underwrite motor insurance within the member countries. We also have got the Council of Bureau, which is the supreme decision-making body. And this Council of Bureau is an assembly of the member countries. And this one is the one that oversees, the operations of the scheme, reporting to the Council of Ministers through COMESA, and then subsequent to the heads of governments of the COMESA region. The reinsurance pool, I have alluded to that earlier on. It's a structure, and all the national bureaus are members of the reinsurance pool, and that membership is evidenced through the constitution of the reinsurance pool, which is another agreement that the national bureaus also sign, so that they are identified with the requirements and the expectations of the reinsurance pool. Last but not least, we have the Council of Bureau Secretariat, which is an outfit which manages the mandate of the Council of Bureau as far as the scheme is concerned. In terms of role play and risk allocation, the primary insurer is at the forefront of issuing the yellow card. And the primary insurer, in all the member countries, they retain 70% of each and every certificate that they are issuing. They then cede 30% to the reinsurance pool. the National Bureau becomes the coordinating structure. So all insurance companies within the member countries, as they're issuing the yellow cards, they keep 70%, and on a consolidated basis, they then forward 30% of each and every certificate premium to the National Bureau. The National Bureau is the one that in turn, seeds, that 30% premium to the reinsurance pool on a consolidated basis. But take note, whilst the 30% is being ceded to the pool in essence is offering reinsurance cover, protecting 100% of the risk. So the entire certificate is reinsured 100%, but only 30% of the premium is ceded to the pool in order to then protect the reinsurance cover that is being accorded. So in terms of stakeholder analysis, just a rundown, I think some of the stakeholders have already highlighted: the primary insurer, the National Bureau, the insurance pool managers. We also have got the law enforcers. Indeed, the main, we're talking of the police, within the different jurisdictions. And this is the structure that's responsible for enforcing the validation of the yellow card certificates. As we speak right now, the validation of the yellow card certificates is now digital. We are doing that through a USSD and also a digital platform, an application rather. So the police in all, I would say, out of the 11 countries that are members of the scheme right now, we have launched the USSD digital verification in 8 member countries. We are just left with 3. Apart from that, we also have got the regulator. We want to appreciate the role that the regulators are playing within the individual markets. In the north, it's Commission of Insurance, who then assists with oversight role and domestication of the yellow card. I'm talking of domestication because for the yellow card to be accepted in any jurisdiction, the law of that individual jurisdiction or member country should recognize that the yellow card is accepted. So it should be within their laws, the insurance law. And I think for the members, the third-party motor insurance, the COMESA yellow card, is coming as a rider. It's coming as a rider on the existing local third-party liability motor insurance within the individual member countries. So the two have to be coexisting, within the law of any member country. That's what we call domestication. Then we've got our learned colleagues, the lawyers, and we're saying the attorney, they help to resolve claims that can fall out of the normal settlement process quoted by the institutional framework of the COMESA yellow card. We are saying the COMESA yellow card, as a scheme, has got its institutional framework, which then facilitate the settlement of claims. But in the event that we've got challenges, and if we've got any claims that are outside, that cannot be settled within that settlement framework or institutional framework rather, then the lawyers, the attorneys come in. And hence, I think this conversation that we're having today. Last but not least, the Council of Bureau Secretariat, I've already referred to, that stakeholder. So allow me to just outline the claims handling structure. We've got the individual national bureaus in the various jurisdictions. And let me mention that any handling bureau within any member country operates, I think from 2 angles. They can be, ordinarily they're an issuing bureau. In other words, they are the ones that coordinate the issuance of yellow card certificates within the markets. But they're also responsible for administering claims within that, their jurisdictions. For cards that have been issued outside their market, they are responsible for handling claims. Hence, we also talk of a handling bureau. So any bureau at any given point in time assumes 2 roles. They're an issuing bureau and they're also a handling bureau. Then we've got the claimant. The claimant ordinarily, when they've got a claim, they approach the local bureau, which becomes like the handling bureau. So any claim that happens within any member country, the point of reference is the the local bureau, which is the handling bureau. That's where the claim should be submitted. And then we've got the primary insurance company who are at the center of the scheme as they're issuing the certificates. The claims reimbursement process, I think, let me say, as the claims are being settled, within the scheme, the handling bureau is the one that settles claims within, the country or the jurisdiction. And after settling, the settling of the claim has to be done with authorization from the issuing bureau. For example, if, the handling bureau, let's say Kenya, and in Kenya we've got Kenya Re, they are the designated bureau in Kenya. And if there's a claim which is coming from a motorist, in Tanzania, so the victim has to approach Kenya Re as the local bureau and report that claim to Kenya Re, and the National Bureau of Tanzania, which happens to be NIC Tanzania, they should authorize, the settlement of the claim to Kenya Re. After authorization, it means Kenya Re can then proceed to negotiate and then settle the claim that is coming from a motorist from Tanzania. After settling the claim, and this settlement is going to be done through the reinsurance pool, and we've got a digital platform that handles that process. Then the handling bureau should then recover whatever they would have paid, from the issuing bureau. So Kenya Re has to approach, NIC Tanzania as the bureau in the issuing bureau in Tanzania to recover, the amount of claim that they would have settled, in Kenya. And that process has to be overseen, or the oversight is with the reinsurance pool, which is ZEPRI. So all reimbursements that have to be done, they have to be done through the reinsurance pool. And like I said, there's a digital mechanism which manages reimbursement of claims. So I think, let me also just reflect briefly on the contribution that the scheme has done, to regional integration as part of the terms of reference. I would say, ideally, people might be expecting to see statistics in terms of, the trade that has happened within the COMESA region. Unfortunately, for now, we don't have those numbers, but we are working towards generating the numbers. For now, we can say the scheme indeed has been contributing, or is contributing to trade or regional integration, judging by the amount of revenue that's coming out of the scheme, and also judging by the number of yellow cards that have been issued over the years. For purpose of this meeting or conversation, I then drew statistics from over an 8-year period running from 2019 to 2026. 2026 as at July and mid-August. So members can see that ever since 2029, in terms of premium, I'm referring to the left-hand side of this slide. We are looking at premium, which is being measured in United States dollars. We started off at 12.9 million US dollars in 2019, all the way up to 2025, when we recorded 27.8 million US dollar premium. And I would say, on average, over the 6-year period, the growth in terms of premium has been about 20%. So it's only in 2021 when we had a slump in terms of premium written, and ordinarily it's because we had the impact of the COVID. So there was traffic was restricted, during COVID, and hence with that reduction in terms of turnover. If we go to the number of cars that were issued, we started off in 2019 at 196,000, all the way up to 372, rounded off to 440 rather in 2025. And members can also see that there's been consistent growth in terms of the number of yellow cards issued under the scheme. On average, I would say the average growth rate in terms of yellow cards has been about 14.5% over a 6-year period. So by inference, colleagues, the scheme indeed is fostering regional integration, going by the premium that has been generated, and also by the number of cards which are increasing year in, year out. In terms of claims, because the scheme is there to pay claims, I also did a review of a 10-year period starting from 2016 to 2025. And we can see that under each and every year, we have been paying claims. I think in terms of our highlights, year 2019 recorded the highest number of claims, cumulatively at 640,000 paid by the pool. These are claims now that were paid or that are being paid by the pool. And on the right side, we are looking at the number of claims that have been reported against the pool. And the threshold here, ladies and gentlemen, has been $50,000 and above. So the statistics that I'm sharing with you are looking at a sample of 50,000 and one claim and above. So this is what has been happening under the scheme. The scheme has been responsive to claims and settling, on an ongoing basis. I think in terms of payouts, I think I've already spoken to this. This is just a pictorial presentation over a 10-year period in terms of how the claims have been happening. We can see, I think, between 2016 and 2019, it has been an upward swing. Subsequent to 2020, I think the number of claims reported within that threshold that I've mentioned somehow has been reducing. But let me say, touch wood, I think going forward, we might be seeing probably an increase in claims because we are seeing, I think, a lot of litigations coming through. And it goes to show that, the scheme is very active going forward. So that, I think, experience of reduced claims might not be the norm going forward because we are seeing a wave of litigations coming through. Madam Chair, Moderator, I want to speak to the operational challenges that we are currently facing as a scheme. Quickly, I would say when we are processing claims under the scheme, I think what matters is documentation. So in the event that documentation is not complete and consistent, that would definitely affect the speed at which claims are resolved. So one area that we are supposed to be working on as a scheme is to ensure that we have got completeness and consistency in terms of documentation that we want for claims processing. The other issue that we are also going through is verification. Like I said all along, verification of the yellow cards was done manually, but we are glad to advise that now we have got a USSD digital verification system, and that does not require someone to have a smartphone or not to have internet. Anyway, even in the bush, with any phone, I think someone or the police officer should be able to verify, the authenticity of any yellow card that has been issued. We also have got issues of limits of liability. Like I said earlier on, the yellow card is the rider on the local third party, insurance, for any member country. And ordinarily, compensation levels, they would differ from country to country. So that difference or variation in compensation levels, as depicted under the benefit slide that I've shared, it then brings in some challenges where in other countries the benefits are competitive, in others they are not. And I think the solution that lies with that is for us to work on harmonization of benefits under the scheme. And that is a task that we are going to be embarking on, I think, in year 2027 going forward. The other issue that we also face operationally is to do with impounding of vehicles. In other territories, the police do impound vehicles in the event that they are not happy, with the outcome of their searches. And we are saying, with due respect, I think the police, they're entitled to do their work, but what we are calling for is a balanced approach. Because if this is done unnecessarily, it means we end up having challenges in terms of, investigating claims, because at some point maybe evidence is destroyed because of prolonged impounding. So it's an area that we are working on, as a scheme, and we are basically engaging, the law officers in the various jurisdictions so that they get to understand that the scheme is operating within the spirit of the scheme is not for us to be impounding vehicles unnecessarily, but to ensure that we facilitate the movement of traffic within the member countries. So it's an area that we think can be improved, and we are basically approaching different member countries, law officers, and engaging, and so that they get to understand what's expected under the scheme as far as their activities are concerned. We also have got litigation, and I'm glad we've got the right audience today. I think we're saying litigation, like I said, it's a necessity as far as the scheme, but it should not be done or applied prematurely, because the scheme on its own has got a framework which is meant to accommodate investigation of claims, let alone settlement of claims. So litigation should come probably as a last resort. It should not be a default as far as the scheme is concerned. But the scheme has got enough structures to manage claims. The other issue that we've got is the issue of recovery and reimbursements. And like I spoke to earlier on, reimbursements and payments, that happens amongst member countries, notably through the national bureau structures. And I think right now what we've got is possibly delays in terms of reimbursements and also settlements. And it's an area that we are working on. I think the solution lies in deliberate funding of claims, creating claims funds within the member countries. So going forward, each and every member national bureau has to be deliberate in terms of its funding to create purposefully a claims fund, which then responds to claims as and when they are referred to them as a handling bureau, even before they have recovered from the issuing bureau. Last but not least, Madam Moderator, is interpretation. I think, like I said, the interpretation of the COMESA yellow card, it doesn't reside within the protocol on its own. It's cross-cutting. If you remember the slide that I shared earlier on, where we've got 3 other instruments which operate together with the protocol. So the interpretation, for all intents and purposes, cuts across. And right now we've got a situation where, certain jurisdictions, they confine their interpretation to the protocol on its own and hardly refer to the other subordinate instruments. And in the end, we've got some discord in terms of, outcomes of claims. So we would encourage, as we speak right now, that the various jurisdictions, they understand that, the scheme has got the founding protocol, but has got also subordinate instruments. And all these are supposed to be interpreted together, for the working of the scheme. As I conclude, let me touch on emerging opportunities in the future. And for this, I would want to quote Dr. Bagayo Abdallah Sakwe. He's the commissioner of the Insurance Regulatory Authority of Tanzania. At one point when he was addressing, the 64th Management Committee of the COMESA Yellow Card, I quote, "The question before COMESA Management Committee is no longer whether transformation will happen. The real question is who will lead it." And writing on this code, I wish to advise this August webinar that the future of the COMESA Yellow Card lies in its transformation and anticipating change. Such transformation and anticipating change is meant to achieve the following, amongst others. I think we are looking at operational efficiency. Ladies and gentlemen, at the center of transformation right now, we've got digitalization, which is being rolled out throughout the scheme. And the whole idea is for us to improve on operational efficiency from all perspectives, be it issuance, be it claim settlement. We are also looking at competitive pricing. Our pricing, differs from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, but it's supposed to be informed by the claims experience within the individual jurisdictions and overall within the scheme. So right now with digitalization, we are looking at transforming, that architecture of pricing, that it be informed fully by the statistics that are coming from the scheme. Like I said, harmonization is also an area that we need to work on. Harmonization of benefits, let alone even the laws that guide, the determination of motor claims in the various jurisdictions. We are also looking at growing the scheme beyond the COMESA. I think we all attest to the fact that the continent is opening up. The CFTA, I think when it comes through, we should be seen to be prepared to be part of the solution as far as cross-border motor insurance is concerned. Last but not least, I think it's innovation. We are anticipating change. I think we are realizing that in terms of the future of road transport, that is also undergoing some changes. We have got projects that are coming through the multimodal transport system, namely the railway systems that are being conceived in the various corridors. Those are bound to affect, the future of the scheme. And for that reason, we should be seen to be innovative enough so that we are not we are not left behind, and we don't lose, I think, on the momentum that we've gathered as a scheme, from 1987 up until now. So innovation is going to be, a driving force and centered around the changes that are happening within the transportation landscape. So someone might ask that what is guiding us going forward? We are currently implementing our strategic plan from 2026 to 2030, and 5 priority areas are the ones that we're pursuing. We are looking at financial resilience. We want to ensure that the scheme is there for eternity. We are looking at stakeholder engagement and market visibility. I remember, I think the moderator was saying most of the members are not aware of the COMESA Yellow Card scheme. True to the word, we have not been deliberate in terms of creating awareness. And right now, we are going to be pursuing vigorously, regionally, a deliberate, awareness creation and marketing. So I would want to say, watch the space in terms of the COMESA Yellow Card. We want it to be known. We want the publicity to be out there. And I think that should manifest in the next, 3 to 4 years. We are looking at also coordinating service, bring about excellence, digitalizing innovation. I've referred to that. And last but not least, we also want to align our governance policy structures. So, Madam Moderator, let me just wind up, I think, and conclude by the following remarks. The COMESA Yellow Card scheme is a promise that is being sold, it being an insurance service that is intangible, hard to feel and let alone to see. The promise behind the COMESA Yellow Card instrument is only fulfilled when the unforeseen happens, and the unforeseen happens to be an accident or an incident. The scheme is thus put to test in terms of its ability to deliver on the said promise through the issued insurance certificate. The settlement of an established claim should be seamless and efficient, ceteris paribus, and for the users to believe the said promise, let alone to support it. Furthermore, a promise thrives upon its fulfillment, while a failed promise undermines confidence. Hence, the unequivocal need to continuously strengthen the regional confidence in respect of this cross-border insurance by ensuring that the claim settlement objective of the scheme is fully met efficiently and professionally. The theme of this webinar seeks to review and appraise the value proposition of the COMESA Yellow Card scheme, this time around against the unfolding expectations of the esteemed clients and stakeholders. I therefore take this opportunity to urge and encourage this august virtual gathering to seriously engage in robust discussions that seek to achieve the following. 1, to validate the roles and current actions that the various stakeholders are assuming and executing in support of the scheme's objectives, considering the clarity that might have emerged from my sharing this afternoon. Secondly, to establish the required solutions and guidance towards the implementation of a future yellow card scheme that withstands future challenges operationally and safeguards the scheme's undisputed reputation. On this note, I wish to thank you all for your audience. Thank you. Over to you, Madam Moderator.
Wow, thank you so much, Mr. Calvin. We are truly, truly honored to have you. I think you've been able to demystify what the COMESA Yellow Card is to all of us. I'm also in the learning process, to be honest. Like I said, and like you echoed, we were struggling to understand the concept even in our insurance law committee. So to have you demystify it in such a simple way, even your diagrams are very easy to understand. So we really, really appreciate you for that. So moving forward and building on what our keynote speaker has spoken about, Mr. Calvin has actually mentioned some of the items that are going to be covered by our next speaker, because our next speaker is going to give us practical litigation experience. His name is Mr. Shafir Hakim Yega. He's the chief executive partner of Yega Advocates, and he'll be able to also talk to us about how the prosecution and defense of cross-border motor accident claims actually happen. And then he's also going to give us an insight on how the procedural considerations of evidentiary challenges, insurer involvement, litigation strategies, and lessons that can be drawn from practice. So this is going to be a very loaded webinar. I believe we're all going to be able to benefit from what our next speaker is going to speak on. I'm going to read his bio, which is short and sweet. Shafir Hakim Yega is a nationally recognized leader in insurance and commercial law. He represents companies in their insurance and commercial disputes and regularly appears in courts, tribunals, and all adjudicating agencies all over the country, as well as in arbitration proceedings, both domestically and internationally. He's the head of litigation and strategy at the firm. He has represented some of the most respected companies and brands in the country and the world doing business in Uganda. His favorite quote is, "No one can stop a ticking clock, but the great ones always find a way to slow it down." And this is from the movie Draft Day. I like that. Council, karibu sana. Please take it up, and we look forward to learning a lot from you.
Asante sana. Thank you very much. And thank you for the bio too. My name is Shafir Hakim Yega, and a big part of my practice is in commercial and insurance law. So I would like to thank the keynote speaker, Mr. Calvin. And I would like to say, Mr. Calvin, as we're listening to you, I guess also the other speakers kept on checking on everything they have to say, because you ended up saying everything we have to say. But we're going to spend the entire afternoon trying to explain more. First of all, I've had the opportunity to get the COMESA yellow card myself. And many of if you haven't driven across the border, you would really not understand the process. And as I begin this, I think it will be a good thing to take people through about how this process happens. And then some of the key things I would first explain experiences of my own about getting the yellow card itself. So assuming you are in Uganda and you're driving to Kenya, the right thing to do is to first go to your insurer, the local insurer, and ask them if they can provide you with a COMESA yellow card. You heard Mr. Calvin talking about the issuing insurer as opposed to the handling and issuing bureau, which we shall distinguish. So the insurance companies within the country or the countries apply to become a part of the bureau. And once they are allowed, then they can issue you what is called the COMESA yellow card. Now, the COMESA yellow card will allow you to have insurance when you cross into the other country. And it's mainly a motor insurance. So it is attached to the motor vehicle that you are driving. If you do that, chances are the insurance company will give you the yellow card that you can use. Now, I said I'll share my experiences because they'll be very important later on when we move on. There was a time when we were traveling with my friends to Nairobi. And what happened is that we failed to get the yellow card within the country, within Uganda. So we hoped we would get one at the border. Unfortunately, we arrived a bit late. And someone at the border said, "I can get you the yellow card." And they got us one. Now, you basically cannot cross into the country without it. If you're driving from Kenya, one of the documents from Uganda to Kenya, one of the documents they want at the border is the yellow card. But once you show it, you continue. And we drove in to Kenya, and as we were getting close to Nakuru, we were stopped by traffic officers, and they took up the opportunity and verified our yellow card, and it was actually invalid. And I couldn't believe it. I said, how can it be invalid? I actually have the insurance company's name that issued it on top. And I remember that we actually dealt with somebody at the border who managed to get us one. And now I cannot actually think that or confirm that it came from an insurance company. There was an agent at the border who said, me, I can get you the yellow card. So it is very, very possible that you can get a forged yellow card. And we shall see the legal consequence of that. Now, let's look at the first scenario to appreciate what the purpose of the yellow card is. Let's look at a scenario where you do not have a yellow card scheme. Without the yellow card scheme, ordinarily, a driver could come into, I'll keep on using Uganda and Kenya because we are close to each other, but assuming a driver from Kenya comes into Uganda without the yellow card and he gets involved in an accident, let's look at the laws that would come into play. The basic laws that would come into play would be the usual traffic rules, and for the torts, the usual negligence rules, whereby the victim of the accident would sue the driver, and if he's not the owner of the car, including the owner of the car, and that's through negligence, and try to recover from them. Now, there are four major issues to look at in that instance, because cross-border, in the sense that they have crossed the border. You have one car from one jurisdiction and a driver from one jurisdiction into another jurisdiction. Now, on the basic litigation, without the yellow card, there are four major things to look at. One, we look at the jurisdiction, who has, assuming, and this is still another thing that happens. Sometimes when these accidents happen, of course, they impound the car, they detain the driver, and they give the driver bond. And what happens? Sometimes the driver goes back to their country. Assuming the driver has had an accident in Uganda, he's given bond, he goes back to Kenya. Then the car, the owner of the car is also in Kenya, and the driver decides not to come back. What do you do as a Ugandan lawyer if a victim has come to you? Ordinarily, you have to find the right choice of forum, which is the jurisdiction. Do you pursue this person in their country, or do you pursue them where the accident happened? Now, you have to pursue them where the accident happened, and that is within Uganda. That is where the cause of action is. There are procedures where you're suing a foreigner within Uganda, which are in the civil procedure rules that are similar in Kenya and Tanzania. Of course, you sue them in Uganda, and then you serve them within their country, and then you go ahead and get judgment and try to enforce it. Now, there's the issue of the choice of law. Still, the choice of law is going to be the law of the country where the accident happened. Because there's no contract, the accident happened within Uganda, it still has to be the Ugandan law. Then there's the issue, sorry, I refer to my notes, there's the issue of the evidence and the service, which I've talked about, and there's the issue of the collection of the judgment, which is the execution. Now, we have the yellow card on the other hand, which is the yellow card scheme. If someone has the yellow card scheme, as the keynote speaker has explained, the yellow card, as the keynote speaker has explained, the whole purpose of it was to avoid this entire process that I have talked about. Because there is no guarantee that if you go ahead and sue, assuming this person does not come and you get judgment against them in default, that you will even be able to recover this money. Now, it would be a process for you to go down hunting a driver in the entire Kenya for you to enforce a judgment. These are some of the things that really pushed for coming up with this scheme, because then it would make things much difficult for the other countries to ensure that people do not run away in such instances. For instance, they would impound the cars and not give bond. But to avoid all that, the scheme is there. Now, what happens in the same situation where you have an accident and somebody has a yellow card? Now, think about the two bureaus that the keynote speaker talked about. To look at the structure, each of the countries that have signed up to this scheme has a bureau. Now, that bureau is the one that deals with the yellow card scheme within its country. It doesn't necessarily it isn't necessarily called a handling bureau or issuing bureau. These handling and issuing differ depending on the circumstances that have arisen in the case. Now, if you drive, they told you that in Uganda, Uganda Re, which is Uganda Re Insurance Company, basically, is the bureau for Uganda, the national bureau. And then in Kenya, it is Kenya Re. Then in Tanzania, it is NIC. Now, in Uganda, if other insurance agents or companies apply to the bureau and they become the issuing insurer, they are not the bureau itself. Let's say an insurance company like Sanlam issues you the third party. It is issuing it on behalf of the bureau itself. So if a yellow card is issued by Uganda Re to me when I'm driving to Kenya by Sanlam or through Sanlam, then in that particular instance, Uganda Re is going to become the issuing bureau. Then when I go to Kenya, God forbid, and I get an accident or I knock, then that becomes the handling bureau. Okay, so the handling bureau is the one that handles the settlement in the country where the accident has occurred. So it does not necessarily mean that there's just one issuing or one handling. So that designation comes in at the time if this has been issued, because there are instances where they issue you a yellow card and you can drive from Uganda all the way through Kenya, Tanzania, and all the way to Zambia using the same. That is what they mean. So if you go through Uganda to Kenya, at that particular moment, if anything happens to you, Kenya is going to be, Kenya Re is going to be the handling bureau. If you cross through and go into Tanzania, Kenya Re is no longer the handling bureau. It is now NIC in Tanzania, the national insurance in Tanzania, which is going to be the handling bureau. These are very important because later when we are looking at who to sue and liability, then it matters who is the issuing and who is the handling bureau. So what happens as now that we have identified? We need to know the mandates that these two bureaus have, okay? The issuing bureau is the equivalent, let's say, of an insurance company. It is giving you the mandate that you can now go into another country, you are insured. The handling bureau would be the one saying, we have received you. Do not worry. We have the mandate from the issuing bureau. You are covered within the country. So what does that mean? Assuming you have an accident, okay? Assuming you have an accident, what happens? What happens is that the handling bureau is the one that will handle the claim and go ahead and make payment. We shall talk about the process of payment and how it comes about. So the issuing bureau, after making payment by the handling bureau, then the handling bureau goes to the issuing bureau and says, hey, you issued an insurance in form of a yellow card to person X. He came into Uganda. We have paid. Can you give us our money back? The issuing bureau will give the handling bureau its money back. And then they will go to what keynote speaker Mr. Calvin talked about as the reinsurance in what is called It is a pool, an interbureau pool, where they then reimburse the issuing bureau the money. That would be the equivalent of what you would talk about as reinsurance or a bit of subrogation, as we shall see later. So if an accident happens, you as the holder of a yellow card, you are covered. Now, what happens on the part of the lawyers? We as lawyers, when you see or you receive instructions where there's an accident involving a car that is from a foreign jurisdiction, I'm not just going to say a car with a yellow card, a car from a foreign jurisdiction. If, assuming you are a lawyer in Uganda and there's an accident and the plates of the car are KC something, the Kenyan plates, you go to the police and try to get the details of the vehicle and any insurance if they have. If they have the yellow card, which is usually a requirement, of course, police will ask for the driving permit and the insurance, which will be handed over to the police. Okay? Then, after that, you have the mandate, or sorry, you have the proof that this person actually had a yellow card. Now, there's something that Mr. Calvin was talking about, which is a verification. Now, the old system without the new technology where you can verify your own cards, you basically just follow this and you write to the handling bureau. That is the bureau within the country where the accident has happened. You notify them, okay, that there has been an accident. My client is a victim, and we are demanding. It can be in form of a demand letter. It can be in form of a lawsuit. One thing you should know is that even if you try so hard to sue the driver of a car that has a yellow card, the first thing they are going to do is to get those summons and plaints you have served them and send them to the handling bureau. So it still takes you back to square one. There's something that Mr. Calvin, I'll keep on referring to him because his keynote was so good, it covered almost everything. He talked about the operations manual. The operations manual under Section 3 and Section 4 describes some of the processes that are involved in the handling of these claims. Section 4, I think Section 4.5, gives the handling bureau the mandate to receive litigation proceedings and to go ahead and prosecute them, defend them, and sometimes to institute. Now, once you have an accident and you're dealing with it, let's look at the lawyer who is dealing with an accident on behalf of the victim. Okay? If the lawyer is dealing with an accident on behalf of the victim and he knows that I'm supposed to write to the handling bureau, then you do that. You write to the handling bureau. The handling bureau will, of course, request for more documentation. The documentation is the basic documentation that you need when you're making an actual claim, or the same evidence you would have taken to court. For instance, if there's a police report showing there's an accident, to show that your client is the actual victim, and also show that this vehicle was at fault, because you need to know that the yellow card covers what is called liability insurance. Now, under Section 3 and Section 4 of the Operations Manual, the Handling Bureau will go ahead to verify the claim that you have presented before them. And if they find that this claim is actually okay, it's payable, sorry, not okay, it's payable, then they are going to sit into negotiations with you with the lawyer and try to have this paid off. Should they find that this is not one that they should pay, they are going to deny the claim. And of course, you may proceed into litigation at that particular time. Instances are there, of course. Some people have gone ahead to sue the handling bureau. Others, even if you sue, and I'll repeat this, even if you sue the driver and the owner of the car, because they have the handler is going to appoint defense lawyer to come and manage that case on their behalf. That is acceptable. Now, there's the other part. The other part is where you're representing the driver or the owner of the vehicle that has knocked, and you're the lawyer. If you are the lawyer and your client says, hey, our truck has knocked, the driver is at police, usually they detain the truck. Of course, as they detain it as security. And of course, they'll give the driver bond depending on the circumstances and the security they may want further. But then what you have to do then is to go ahead and using the yellow card, you don't go back to Kenya to the insuring agent that issued it to you. You actually have to send it to Uganda Re, where the accident has happened. That is the handling bureau. And then the same process will come in. Of course, the handling bureau will want the names of the victim, circumstances of the accident, and still go through the normal insurance processes. Now, there's another scenario where the card is not valid. There have been instances like the one I've told you where I was issued a card and there was an insurance company. Of course, I can't tell you which one. That was behind the issuance. Of course, if it was invalid, probably the documents of the insurance company were also invalid. Where the card has been issued to you and the card is invalid, then the first thing you should know is that when the insurance company, when the bureau that is handling the claim does its first steps, because as I told you under the operations manual, section 3 and section 4, they clearly tell you that the first thing they are going to do is to verify if the yellow card is authentic, is an original document, and was correctly issued for that vehicle involved in the crash. Should they find that the yellow card is actually invalid, they are going to deny the claim, and at that particular moment, you cannot sue them. There have been instances where lawyers have gone ahead to sue. Of course, your question will be, but I'm not the one who issues it. And the handling bureau shall not be liable. It shall not be liable the moment it finds that the yellow card is invalid. It is in the manual. The Kenyan courts have had that decision, a decision in that respect. And then also the Ugandan court deals with the second part, which I'm also going to tell you now. So what happens if you're the lawyer and your client says, I got this from insurance company X and it has been denied by the handling bureau? What do I do? It doesn't mean that you have to forfeit your rights. You go back now to the country that gave you, to the country where you received the yellow card, that is in the issuing country. You go to the issuing agent and both the issuing bureau. And those are the people you actually have to sue. And this time, you have to sue them for having given you a wrong yellow card. And of course, that basically translates into they have to also be liable for whatever you're liable for because you intended to insure. Of course, as lawyers, we know how that comes about. If I had a contract with you for insurance and I was under the belief that I'm insured and I'm not insured, and only to find out that it is your fault, then you're going to be liable for what I expect I was supposed to pay. So you cannot sue the handling because they didn't issue you this. you go back to the issuing authority. But now, in my instance, the question would be, if they say we don't know this yellow card, you probably got it from some, fraudster at the border. And then that means I'll have to sue the fraudster, but that's how it goes down. You cannot sue the handling bureau simply because you have an invalid yellow card. So the key things to talk about now is that if you have a valid yellow card, the defendant in court is either the handling bureau or acts on behalf of the driver and the insurer. That is if you still sue the driver and the insurer. Then the legal process is received. It can be received by the local handling bureau, which goes back to the second thing. If, for instance, you want to sue the driver who came into Uganda with a Kenyan car, a Kenyan truck, knocks somebody down or knocks a car down, and everything is in check, the yellow card is valid, you do not have to go through the process that the civil procedure rules say that you go and then get an order and then go back to the next to the court in the other jurisdiction and get an order and then start looking for the person. No, you don't have to go through that process. The local handling bureau can actually receive process on behalf of those two parties. Then the handling bureau mandate is fully active at that point in litigation under section 4.5 of the operational manual. Then the award that is paid by the handling bureau, but is basically reimbursed through the issuing bureau via the reinsurance program that they have. If you don't have a yellow card or invalid, they are going to sue the driver directly, or they sue the foreign insuring agent, insuring insurer directly, not the bureau, because sometimes the bureau has given the agent the right to issue. Okay, so if you go ahead and sue them, of course they will have some indemnity clauses against each other, right? The local handling bureau will not accept service. You still have to go through the normal ways of serving. And under section 4.1, the invalid yellow card abates any obligation on the handling bureau. So you still cannot engage them in anything once they discover that your yellow card is actually invalid, and the driver will become personally liable and maybe the owner of the car. And if you have any claim that can show that the insurer was involved in the issuance of an invalid yellow card, then you can go against the insurer too. So that summarizes some of this. I had talked about, I talked about, sorry, I'm referring to my notes again about what I had to cover. I talked about in Uganda where we had an instance where they sued the issuing insurer, and that's a case against Excel Insurance. They sued the insurer. They had issued an invalid yellow card, and of course the court found the insurer to be liable for issuing the invalid yellow card. Then on one more thing, there's the issue of double recovery. Sometimes people are paid here. Once they are paid, let's say by the handling bureau, then they go to the foreign country and try to pursue the driver again. That is not allowed, and it could actually put you in a lot of trouble, because once you are paid by the handling insurer, then what happens is that you have to sign off all your rights to recover any money. Because remember, what happens is that the moment the handling insurer pays you, then this bill is taken to the issuing insurer, who is now the local in the country where it was issued, to pay this money back to the handling insurer before they can go to the reinsurance. So you cannot get paid in Uganda and then get adventurous and go to Kenya to also recover. That wouldn't be allowed. With that, I think I've covered the biggest part. I will take on questions later. Thank you very much.
Excellent, Shafir. Thank you so much, especially for sharing your personal experience. You didn't finish the story, but we'll pursue you on the chat. I'm seeing on the chat there is a participant also experienced the same thing, and I believe it's becoming quite common. So maybe you can assist us later on as to how you are able to navigate. It would be very helpful for us and the rest of the participants. So participants, we're going to move on to the next speaker. Thank you so much, Shafir. Shafir is going to answer the questions that you're putting on the chat as we conclude. Next, we're going to have Mr. Elia Charles Kawo. He's an insurance and risk management professional. Mr. Elia is going to be able to examine one of the most critical aspects of cross-border claims management. He'll tell us what happens after a judgment has been obtained, as our previous speaker has touched on that. Then his presentation will also focus on enforcement mechanisms, recovery challenges, insurer obligations, the processes of compensation, and practical considerations that will affect a successful recovery. If I could read his bio, Mr. Elias Charles Kawo is a dedicated and highly skilled insurance and risk management professional with a proven track record of managing operations, driving portfolio growth, and enhancing client relations within the Tanzanian insurance sector. He currently serves as the customer care assistant at Britam Insurance Limited in Moshi, where he excels in managing key intermediary channels, claims management, optimizing retention, and accelerating renewal pipelines. Prior to joining Britam, Elia gained extensive technical experience at the Zanzibar Insurance Corporation in Dar es Salaam. And during his tenure, he served as a claims officer and also as an underwriting officer, where he demonstrated rigorous capability in evaluating motor and non-motor risks, resolving complex claims with speed and precision, and facilitating seamless transit operations via COMESA Yellow Card administration. Elia, you'll allow me to cut your bio short at that, but it's a very impressive bio. I believe you'll be able to give us great insights on the COMESA Yellow Card administration. Also, feel free to post your LinkedIn profile so that we're able to follow you on your professional page, and that way we'll be able to interact with you further. Thank you. Thank you, and karibu sana, Elia.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Lydia. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, distinguished. Good afternoon, team. Today we're going to, and thanks for other panelists on the, starting from the COMESA in general to other litigation, and now we are going to deep in the claim handling process and until the claim settlement on the COMESA. So without taking much time, I'm starting to explain, or starting to proceed with claim handling. So as Shafiq tell us on the presentation that he provided, when the COMESA claims occurs, and then it comes to litigation matters, and then comes to the insurance company or the claim handling bureau or national bureau. As an example, for Tanzania, we have the National Insurance Corporation, which oversee the COMESA handlings on the country, in the countries. And in case of any claim that occurs, and it include the COMESA covers, then the owners of the COMESA comes to insurance company, or can go directly to NIC. So, and after going to the National Bureau, the National Bureau have the several issues, or have several process must be take place. The first one is receive the notification, and you can see that if the incident occurs, or a lawsuit occurs, then the one who get the loss or the one who caused the loss must report it to the National Bureau and register the claims. Or we can also, by this time around, the COMESA have a portal that claim can be registered in the portal directly and not go directly to the National Bureau office. This simplifies the chances for delaying of the claims. And then the National Bureau have the chances to fasten the carrying the investigation or any necessary action to take place before coming to settlement. And example in Tanzania, we must include different documents that will be useful on the time of claim handling. This include police documents, police sketch map, many the accidents, the scene sketch map, and what also may include and also may include the they may include the judgments from the courts and charge sheet from the courts. That those documents are collected to have to provide the clear liability of the National Bureau, and this is due to have this why they include or why require many documents or many documentation. The answer is to verify the COMESA card and the accident if it's occurs, and who the one who have the one who initiate the one who caused the accident must be known so that we can establish the liability. So the document after being collected in fully, then the insurer or the National Bureau or the NIC comes to have the notification to the National Bureau of the person. Example, if the person comes from maybe Kenya, so NIC in Tanzania must communicate with Kenya Reinsurance in Kenya so that to notify them that you issued this card, or your insurance or your insurance or your primary insurance company issued this card to this one or to this person, to person X, and then this person get the accident in our country and come to file the claims in our bureau. So this is to ensure that there is no any problem or any kind of challenges that will be facing the future, as the NIC, when it's come to settlement, the NIC must pay the insured or the claimant in full amount as after investigation, but also the NIC must come to claim to Kenya Insurance Corporation with all the document necessarily, and then the Kenya must issue the covers or must issue payment reimbursement to the NIC. So the handling bureau must quickly verify the documentation, verify the underwriting details, and as soon as possibly, and all the documentation, all the accident after the completion of accident report, the details of the claim they must enter the claim details of the claim in the yellow card claim register, and normally in carrying the claims in different ways, and the handling bureau shall proceed with shall proceed to pay they should proceed to pay the claimant as soon as after they have the process in the legal process against the insured, and arrange legal defense to the suit, and all the costs encompassed will be compensated by the Kenya region when it's come to Kenya or whatever. And on the limit as COMESA guides on the claim settlement limits, which, for example, where the settlement of the claim is equal or below the USD 15,000 per claim, the handling bureau should effect payments or should proceed with payment without prior authorization from the issuing bureau. And the issuing bureau is a bureau that the one who initiates the cover, the one who issues the cover to the person, not to the individual. And then if the claim is after being shared and settled, the handling bureau should come to provide the insurance pool so that to make the settling of the claim that is requested or that is claimed. But if the claim is on the reimbursement pool, in the end, maybe the claim comes to reimbursement through the pool clearing or in the bureau claims, the handling bureau should advise the reinsurance pool the copy of the issuing bureau settlement which is below or equal to 15 USD, 15,000 USD. But if the claims is not exceeding 10,000 paid directly by handling bureau shall be reimbursing, and the one who is interested is issuing bureau. And about that, the handling bureau must make sure that any of the claims must be settled in the good time, and after that, the handling bureau must come to request reimbursement from the issuing bureau, and he can provide interest rates about 5% of an annual, so that if the claim is not reimbursed back to the handling bureau, let's say if the claim if the person or the claimant or the person comes from Kenya or comes from Uganda, and the issuing bureau is the Uganda Reinsurance Corporation, and then comes to Tanzania and maybe collide with the Tanzania motorcade and come to have a loss, then the NIC must pay in full the vehicle that got the loss, or pay full all the required payment. And then after paying full the claims, then the NIC must come to Uganda Re and tell them, oh, I'm checking this, I have this claim, or that you issue yourself or your primary insurance company at your area or at your country, and then it's collide with us and get the loss. So the issuing bureau or the one who is in the country or Uganda Re must, if it issue it themselves, then they provide the reimbursement to NIC. If maybe they have any problem or any challenges, they must facing direct the primary insurer of each the countries, according to each countries and their property or their locality. But if the claims is exceeding 15,000 US dollars, then the settlement must involve, firstly, the handling bureau must seek the prior authorization from the issuing bureau before any payment made. That is, maybe if the claim is from Sonarwa, the issuing bureau of Rwanda get the accident or get the collision or get the claims or having the claim with the Kenya Insurance Corporation. Maybe the vehicle from Rwanda collide with the vehicle of Kenya and the Kenya country. Then the Kenya Reinsurance Corporation, before providing anything, first must seek the approval, seek the authorization to proceed to pay that amount or that extra amount, that exceeded party, because and this will make sure that no any forgery or no any problem that will come in future, as you know that this is like a pool that we are sharing the risk together, and in the collective part, and so that as a national bureau, as a SONARWA, then Kenya Reinsurance must seek the SONARWA authorization to proceed to pay. And if SONARWA comes to and say you may proceed, so that the Kenya Insurance Corporation must proceed to pay with the claimant. And we have the emergency medical expenses. So in case of any medical emergencies, as you know that COMESA covers the loss of the vehicles, but also covers the medical expenses that maybe will be occurs to the even drivers or any third party liabilities. So if we have the medical issues, so that we follow the procedures to the National Health Bureau and provide all the required documents, and then comes to finalizing and come to the finalizing of the claims, and all things come to appear. So and so what to in conclusion, on the recovering mechanism, the claimant must on the recovering mechanism in shortly, as I said, but then also on the if then there is a fraud proof, we have to make sure on each dealing with the COMESA covers or dealing with the COMESA claims is to ensure that if there is this clear and authentic the documentation that is in the COMESA covers. Example, I can show one of it. I can show one of it in the. I have this one. Maybe you can see. So we can see that there is a hologram here. This prove that this COMESA is legal. As you can see, this is you contain the holographic materials. Also, you can contain the issuing bureau flags or national flag, and other details will be in these covers. Also, we can include maybe the QR code and the card number. This is some of the COMESA card that I have here, and some of the person maybe they think that they can think that COMESA or in case of COMESA claims they cannot be paid. I can say to them, no, just follow the required procedures, the required actions, so that we can come to an end, and the claim will be settled to all of the parts. That is for me.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Elia, for giving us the Tanzanian perspective. We are really grateful to hear how the COMESA Yellow Card in practice happens in your jurisdiction. We were also meant to have contributions from Zanzibar and from Kenya, but unfortunately, our panelists from those two countries were not able to attend. So I think this is an area where we might need to have a follow-up webinar so that we're able to get perspectives from more East African countries. Thank you. Thank you, Elia. And all our speakers. I want to go straight to questions because of time. We're at, we have just about 15 minutes left. I'll start with one of the questions that was posted on the chat, and perhaps our CEO, Mr. Calvin, are you still there? Mr. Shafir, there's a question about if a vehicle is insured under the yellow card scheme and it causes an accident in another East African partner state, the question is that which country's courts and procedural law govern the claim. I believe Mr. Shafir mentioned that, but perhaps you can answer for us the next part of the question, which is how does the system address situations where the insurer or the compensation bureau disputes jurisdiction or liability? Mr. Shafir, as the practitioner, I believe you're able to take this. And then
Yes,
I'll come back to Mr.
yes.
Calvin on general questions on the yellow card system in general. Thank you.
Okay. One thing that should be noted is that the yellow card scheme does not alter the jurisdiction. It actually alters the compensation. Now, imagine a situation where there is no yellow card scheme. If I were to be driving from Uganda to Tanzania, I would have to go to Uganda, get insurance, then enter Kenya and get insurance, then enter Tanzania and get insurance. The yellow card scheme is saying, no, we can have a bureau of insurance in each of these three countries, create a pool of our own, and be able to avoid the situation where you have to get insurance in every country where you are driving through. So in Europe, they have what is called the green card. That is what is in EU. It is the green card. In East Africa, COMESA, we have the yellow card. So what happens is that the yellow card does not alter the insurance or, sorry, the jurisdiction on what would be otherwise litigated. My brother from Tanzania who just submitted, he talked about something maybe that I had left out, that sometimes the claim might be in form of a judgment which has already been obtained. Now, there could be instances where maybe both lawyers didn't weren't keen enough about the yellow card scheme, and you get judgment against the driver and against the owner of the truck. If you try to execute against them in Kenya from Uganda, when you have judgment, they're going to give this demand on by judgment, whatever orders the court has told them to pay. They're going to hand it over still to the handling bureau, which will, like an insurance company, pay off. So it does not alter the jurisdiction. You still have to use the jurisdiction and the laws of the country where the accident happened. I hope that answers the first question.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
And there was another question which says, what happens if the insurance company was never a part of the claim, but I now have the judgment against the driver and the company? And I think I've answered it there. You can go and sue the driver and the company.
Yes.
The courts are not going to stop you. They will hear you because that is what the law is. Like I said, once you have the judgment, if you come to the handling bureau, the handling bureau is going to look at the judgment. If it finds that there was fault, the judgment establishes that there is fault on part of the driver. And still, remember, if you have judgment against the driver and the owner of the car, the most important thing for the handling bureau is a valid yellow card. So even if you have judgment against them, the first step they're going to do under the operations manual, section 3 and 4, is to ensure that there was a valid yellow card, which is not a part of your case anyway. And once the card is valid, then they are going to pay. If it is not valid, it still goes back to the first thing, that their obligations are met. I hope that answers it.
I believe that is well responded to, unless the participant needed more clarification, but thank you so much, Shafir. And now that I still have you here, perhaps you can answer the next part of the questions. I've bundled them together. There are a lot of questions about, the similar incident you had, which is when you can also call it an invalid yellow card. Could you kindly take us through that?
Okay, the invalid yellow card basically means you have no insurance. And I want to inform you, luckily, by the time we were in Nakuru, it was during the day. And what we did, we managed to to stop there and contact our insurer in Uganda to actually issue us to issue a valid yellow card, which once they issued, we managed to get access to and show that. I need now to also inform you there were a lot of issues that came up at that time, and we actually had to pay some more money to cover what would be or ordinary challenges, because we are asking for the insurance when we are already in another country. There are also instances where that insurance expires. Still, you have to do the same thing by extending it in the original country where you came from. Now, just because you're in Nakuru, it doesn't mean you walk into an insurance company and say, I want a yellow card. Remember that now you're already in the country that is what? It's supposed to be your handling country. You still have to get the insurance from Uganda where you came from. Otherwise, what you would be getting in Kenya at that particular point would be the local insurance, which is the third party and comprehensive. It cannot be a yellow card within Kenya. Because if they issue it to you in Kenya at that particular moment, your accident in Kenya will not help you. It only helps you in another country. I hope that is also okay. So what they told us to do was, please, you park there and find a way of resolving it. I called the agent, and the agent said, no, you have to get it from Uganda. We can issue it to you. And because they issue it as a document, we can issue it to you, and we send you the document via WhatsApp, and you can use that. As long as the details that they have told you that are on it can be traced in the system.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for that response. Maybe also now that I sit at the Insurance Regulatory Authority, we do have a complaints mechanism. I believe it's the same in the other jurisdictions, and any insurance beneficiary or any insurance customer who encounters this kind of experiences is welcome to complain. You can complain about the intermediary who sold the certificate or the card to you. And you can also report to the insurance company if at all they were involved. So I believe this is helpful for the participants to know that there's that process as well. So thank you, Shafir. Someone has also posted on the chat that how you can verify your COMESA yellow card. And I believe Mr. Calvin also mentioned something in those lines, as well as earlier. So you can just check on the chat. Someone has posted the USSD code that can enable you to confirm whether your COMESA yellow card is valid. But we're hoping that these incidences will not be common moving forward. Then we also had some comments are about the handling bureaus. Perhaps Mr. Calvin can respond to this. There's an issue that has been raised about Kenya Re and Uganda Re as well, either when they're playing the role of issuing bureau or handling bureau. Perhaps you can guide us as to what recourse we have as insurance beneficiaries or insurance customers when there's such an incident. Mr. Calvin, please.
Thank you very much, Lydia. Handling and issuing bureau, like I said, those mandates, they coexist within any national bureau. We speak of a handling bureau when the bureau is responding to a claim that has been reported to them, within their country. But I think the accident has been caused, not I think, but the accident has been caused by a visiting motorist. So I think what we're saying is handling and issuing, those mandates, they reside within any national bureau. So the course of action or the approach is, once someone has got a claim, they have to go to the bureau within the country where the accident has happened. And if we are looking at the certificate, I'm glad that the last speaker, I think, gave us showed a sample of the certificate, COMESA yellow card certificate. Behind that page, he showed us the front. Behind that page, we have got information as to, in terms of the bureaus that are in existence, within the member countries. So the approach is, a victim or someone who has got a claim, they have to report, the claim or submit the claim to the bureau that is in the country, where the accident has happened, and the bureau that is in the country where the accident has happened, we call it the handling bureau. They are the ones that are supposed to respond to the claim from investigation to settlement. The issue of reimbursement, I think the two speakers referred to that. It's a process which should not even bother the victim, because it happens within the framework. The handling bureau through the pool then recovers from the issuing bureau. But the victim is not privy to that process. The victim should just approach the local bureau there, submit the claim, it's validated and investigated, they should get their payment, and that's it. I hope I've responded. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Calvin. I think there's a question which is almost related to that, but I see Mr. Shafir has responded on the chat. He says also that each country has a law that implements the COMESA Treaty. In Uganda, it's called the Common Markets for East and Southern Africa Treaty Implementation Act. Then the operational manual becomes part of the law. So thank you for that clarification, Mr. Shafir. So there is a question about the legal foundation of the protocol, and I don't know if it's a question or a comment, but the participant says that considering the yellow card's EAC specific instrument, is there any ongoing initiative to establish an EAC-wide legal framework or protocol specifically? I believe to deal with that. Mr. Calvin, again, I think this would be for you.
Let me deal with it. I read an actual message.
Thank you.
Maybe Mr. Calvin can pick up. Now, what people should know is that the COMESA Treaty has a lot of things. The yellow card is just one of them. Okay, so the COMESA Treaty, in each of the member countries, they have a law which is the implementation law. In Uganda, it is Chapter 184, Cap 184 of the laws of Uganda, 2023. Now, the implementation laws are basically saying that whatever we agreed upon in this treaty shall apply in the local country. So it is from this treaty and the localizing laws that then these operation manuals are brought into each of these countries and implemented. That's how you have the Uganda RE, Kenya RE, NIC, and all the other in each of the countries. So there's already a law that implements the treaty itself beyond the what is it called, the yellow card. So everything that was discussed within the treaty, including the yellow card, is implemented by way of a law. So it is not an East African community thing, just because I'm sorry I kept on referring to East Africa. But this COMESA, once you get it in Uganda, you drive through Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, Zambia, all those countries are within COMESA. It is a common market of East Africa and Southern Africa, East and South Africa. So it applies to all those countries there. So it's still the same card. It's only that we keep on saying Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania. It's still the same insurance that will help you through all those countries. Maybe another practical thing to inform people is that when you're buying the yellow card, it has different periods, because once it expires, of course, your insurance abates. So if you're going to Kenya for, let's say, 3 days, there's one that is there for, I think, 14 days. They go up to a whole year. Now, people who drive very long distances, like the trucks, they get insurance for a whole year. So they have that yellow card. They drive through Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, and he can also haul goods all the way to Zambia using the same insurance that he has. He doesn't need to buy one for every country he's going to. So the implementation is there. And the most important thing for lawyers to know is that the yellow card scheme is a compensation mechanism. It is not a law that changes the other laws of the country. There's someone who asked that, can a Kenyan lawyer go and practice then in Rwanda or Uganda to defend his client? No, you cannot. Those are laws regarding how a lawyer from Kenya, a foreign lawyer, practices in another country. The yellow card scheme does not give you a ticket to come and say, I'm under a yellow card, let me come. No. It doesn't. Even then you wouldn't, because that is not the handling bureau. The handling bureau, the essence of the handling bureau is that it moves the compensation from one country to another. So it's a compensation mechanism. It is not a law that affects jurisdiction and all the other laws of the country.
Great. That's a very good response. Thank you. And you responded to the second question the participant had asked. But also now that you've mentioned that, there's a question about the currency. So someone is asking whether the claims are settled in the currency of the country where the accident happened. I know this has also been a challenge which Mr. Calvin mentioned with regards to the difference in compensation, the compensation rates. Perhaps you can clarify that for us.
Hello. Hi, Lydia.
Yes, Mr. Calvin.
Okay. With your permission, I would want to invite our senior IT expert to then come through and respond to that claim. His name is Richard. He's also, I think, on call. If Richard, if you can come through and respond to this question.
Okay. Thank you, CEO, and good afternoon. And afternoon, Lydia. I think I responded on the chat. The currency that applies is if the accident happens, the country where the accident happened or occurred is the claim will be paid in the currency for that country. So if the accident happened, using the example of the earlier presenter, if the accident happened in Kenya, then the claim will be paid in Kenya shillings because the victim is a Kenyan victim. And maybe to also respond to some earlier queries on the chat, when you purchase the yellow card, there are now capabilities for you as a motorist to verify the yellow card to avoid a situation that similar to what happened to Mr. Shafir in verifying that yellow card at the point of purchase. You could use the mobile application, which I've shared the link. You can download it and install it. Or if you are in that particular country, maybe you're in Uganda, you can use the USSD code, which is free of charge. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Richard. But now that we have you here, there's also a question that was asking about what happens if you're not able to obtain the necessary documents. Are you able to respond to this now that we have you on call?
This is if you're not able to obtain the necessary document in case of a claim.
A claim, yes.
Okay, so this
and they're referring to section 11, sorry, of the operations manual. I believe this is perhaps a participant from Uganda, I'm not sure, but so that's the question. What happens, what can be done if the necessary documents are not obtained? So if you have a victim in Kenya and the accident happened in Kenya and maybe you're not able to get all your documentation in order, how do we handle such a victim?
All right, maybe I think it will be best to just give a brief in terms of the process, how it happens. So if the motorist is traveling from, using the example from Uganda, and they cause an accident in Kenya. So essentially the first step they do, being an accident, they need to get a police abstract because the police have to be on scene to verify that the accident happened. At that point, the motorist will simply get in contact with the police because the police will come on the scene. And then step 2 is they will need to get in touch or contact the National Bureau coordinator, who the contacts for the National Bureau are behind the yellow card, and also they're on the website. I've shared the link. So after this, after getting in touch with the National Bureau coordinator, now the motorist can proceed to on the trip where they were headed. They will also leave a copy of the yellow card with the coordinator. So the responsibility of the motorist who caused the accident, it ends there. They can proceed. Then the rest of the process would be now undertaken by the coordinator within that particular country. This will be now the Kenyari for the example of Kenya.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, Richard. I'll throw one last question back to your CEO, Mr. Calvin. I saw you're an expert also. You've handled some companies that have gone under what we call insolvency. And there's a question here as to what does the Bureau do in regards to payment where the local insurance has gone under? How are they able to comment on the Kenyan scenario?
Okay, thank you so much, Lydia. So in terms of the yellow card scheme, the National Bureau of any member country acts as the first line of defense. In the event that an insurance company has gone under, the National Bureau of that country should be able to respond to any claim. Let alone, like we said, all the primary insurance companies that are part of a national bureau, they are licensed by the regulatory authority, insurance regulatory authority of the country where they reside. Also, we have seen that the regulator, I think, comes in, to somehow not guarantee per se, but safeguard the interests of that company that has gone under. So we've had instances, I think a few instances where, a company has gone under. And like I said, the National Bureau should be able to respond. It's part of their mandate in terms of the protocol. They've got resources of member companies, to guarantee any payment that should be paid. So it's an area that we are still working on in terms of fortifying it. But the instruments are very clear as to what happens. So no one should go, I think, unattended or uncompensated because a company has gone under. That claim should still be handled, through the National Bureau, which is the handling bureau of that jurisdiction. So there's a guarantee. That's what I can say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Calvin. I think that has closed that issue. However, the topic of insolvency is quite a broad one, as Mr. Calvin can agree. I think that would have to be in another webinar altogether. However, for the insurers in Kenya, we do have a safety net, what we call a safety net, which is the policyholders compensation fund. But as Mr. Calvin has said, the national bureaus should be able to handle any claims arising from the COMESA yellow card in this instance. But if it was a local insurance issue, then the policyholders compensation fund in Kenya currently compensates up to 500,000 of any claim that arose while the company was still operational. So perhaps this is a conversation we need to have in another session where we can compare our jurisdictional providers in terms of safety nets for insurance. So I'd like to hand it back to our organizers, Mr. Gabriel. Thank you so much for organizing this. This was, as I'd mentioned at the beginning, it was triggered by us not knowing too well what happens with this COMESA yellow card insurance. And it came up in our insurance law committee of the ELS. So we have all learned so much from all the speakers. We appreciate all of you. We hope that we'll be able to have another further session because we have so many questions that we're not able to respond to on the chat. But I hope we can be able to interact with you also on your professional platforms if we have any further questions that we'd like to raise to you. So back to you, Gabriel. Thank you so much, Mr. Elia, Mr. Shafir, Mr. Calvin, my panelists. I appreciate you and have a good afternoon.
Wow, thank you, Lydia. And it's been an exceptional session, and it's been absolutely an honor having you moderate this session. You've kept it quite lively and quite informative. So thank you for the coordination and your leadership at the Insurance Law Committee. My special thanks go to you, Mr. Calvin Mutiavaviri, and your colleague, Mr. Richard Mokua, from the COMESA Bureau. From the East Africa Law Society, we are thrilled, like I mentioned earlier, to host you. And in the words of Oliver Twist, we would love to have some more of you, sir. So when we call upon you, sir, I hope that we will catch you at good timings and continue to draw from your wonderful expertise and your experience in the field of insurance law. To you, my dear brothers Elia and Shafir, it's always an honor having you, and we would love to have more and more of you. Now, a recording of this will be shared to you, dear participants, on your different email addresses, along with any presentations that our panelists will share with us so that we can keep reading and referring to these. And this brings our webinar to a close until we have a further discussion next week. Our YouTube channel is East Africa Law Society. So if you have not yet subscribed, please hit that bell icon at East Africa Law Society. And at this juncture, I would like to thank you, our YouTube family that has been following us on YouTube. We hope that you keep following our programming, and looking forward to another wonderful week of wonderful discussions. Now, next week, we'll be looking at intellectual property and discussing stolen brands and stolen ideas. And we have quite an elaborate panel that you do not want to miss. We also have another exciting session that we are hosting with our young lawyers, and we'll be looking at a discussion beyond the bar, something that we do not want to miss out on. And we'll be looking at AI in legal practice. And of course, we'll be discussing East Africa's resource race. So we look forward to hosting you next week, and wishing you a very lovely afternoon and a blessed weekend ahead from us to you. Until we meet again, goodbye and cheers.
Kwaheri Gabriel, thank you so much. And to all our LSK people in Diani, please continue to enjoy yourselves. Good afternoon, everyone.